Now we're testing our engine compressor, if he can build the pressure from 85 to 100. So the needle here is about 85, and it should open and it should rise to 100 within 45 seconds. So basically, you put the clock on, you start your timing, and you see how long it takes for that needle to build from 85 to 100 psi. It should be less than 45 seconds. Okay, and if it does that, it means it's a good test. If it's not, it takes more time, it means it's a bad compressor. Okay, and here we have 100 psi. It took about 33 seconds. Is a good test. Okay, we're gonna talk about how we're testing our brakes. Governor cutout test, it should happen no more than 140 psi. Remember, the governor valve, it should close at no more than 140 psi. I'm watching my needle on both primary and secondary till the needle will stop rising. That's my governor cutout test. Okay, normally they close somewhere in between 120 and 140. See, right now the governor valve closed and does not allow any more air to go inside the system, and they close at about 130. That's 130. Look at the 100 and the 40, and that needle stop at 130. That's what they call it, the governor cutout. It should close no more than 140. Another test, they call it governor cut-in test. Governor cut-in test is the same thing that valve, it should open and allow the air to go inside the system, and it should open, as we said, at 100 psi or before 100 psi. Okay, so usually when we're driving, we're losing air, and once the air drop no more than 100, it should start rising. See, here I'm gonna push the service brake several times to demonstrate that one. Now my pressure drop in the first one to about 107, and I'm watching if the needle will start moving up. As you can tell, the needle start moving up. It means the governor valve, it's open, and it opened before it dropped to 100. Okay, that's one. Now we're gonna talk about low air pressure test. The system, it should warn me if I have low air pressure in my tank. Usually it should warn me between 75 psi and 55 psi. That's the question, guys, so pay attention. A system should warn me with the light and buzzer on the dashboard on those gauges. So I'm assuming I'm losing the air pressure. Here you go. And once the pressure is between 75 and 55, I'm supposed to see the lights and the buzzer. See, now it's 60, nothing. Okay, it's about 58 psi. The system gives me the warning. The buzzer comes on, or the alarm comes on, and the lights is on. Okay, it's a good test. The question will be, when the system should warn you have a low air pressure. The answer is no less than 55 psi. That's usually within the question. No less than 55 psi. Now, if the air pressure drop more, the spring brakes, those one, they should automatically pop out. So I'm gonna release them, and they should pop out. Let us see if they're gonna pop out. And they should pop out when air pressure drop between 20 and 45. Usually they put you the lower number, the 20. So when the emergency brakes should engage? The answer is when the air pressure drop no more than 20 psi. So I'm panning my brake to lose the air pressure. See here, I'm losing the air pressure. The warning comes first, and now I'm gonna watch this one to see if they will pop. The first one pop out, okay, and I keep going on the second one till they will pop out. The second one pop out, and they pop out when reach 20 psi. Another test, they call it static leakage test and apply leakage test. Static leakage test depend what kind of vehicle. We should not lose certain amount of air or of psi. If it is straight vehicle or bus, we should not lose more than 2 psi in 1 minute. If it's a combination vehicle, we should not lose more than 3 psi in 1 minute. That's a static leakage test, okay? And it's a question, of course. The way you have to perform the static leakage test, the DMV is gonna go around. It's not gonna tell you straight on static leakage test, we should not lose more than 3 psi on combination vehicle, true or false. They are not gonna say that. Or we should not lose more than 2 psi on bus or straight vehicle. Okay, they are not gonna go that. They're gonna tell you the engine is off, so I'm gonna turn my engine off. Spring brakes that are released, so I'm gonna push him in to release them. Engine is off. Spring brakes are released, we push them in, and service brake is not pushed. How many psi max I can lose in 1 minute? Now I'm missing what kind of vehicle. They have to tell you the kind of the vehicle. If they said bus or straight, you tell them in 1 minute I should not lose more than 2 psi. If they said it's combination vehicle, truck and trailer, you tell them 3 psi. That's the question. Another test, they call it apply leakage test. Apply leakage test, I should not lose more than 3 psi in a bus or straight vehicle with 1 minute. Or 4 psi in combination vehicle. So the engine has to be off, the brake has to be released, spring brakes has to be released, the vehicle should be secured, and now I should press the service brake. And now I'm watching my needle, how many psi I will lose. Again, in straight vehicle or bus, I should not lose more than 3 psi. In combination vehicle, I should not lose more than 4 psi. Okay? That's how it is. The DMV will ask you this kind of question. My engine is off, the vehicle is secured, the spring brakes are released, the service brake is released, the vehicle is single or bus, and they will tell you in 1 minute I should not lose more than, and they give you some numbers. 4 psi, 6 psi, 3 psi, 2 psi. They are talking about static leakage test. You have to know it's a static leakage test, and the answer is 2. Or they can tell you, my engine is off, my spring brakes are released, the vehicle is secured, the service brake is pushed, my vehicle is combination, and I should not lose more than, and they're gonna give you the numbers, 4, 3, 5, 6 psi. And the answer is 4 psi, because they are talking about apply leakage test. Sometimes the DMV will ask this way. They will say, which of the statement is true? I should not lose more than 3 psi in combination vehicle. The engine is off. My spring brakes, they are engaged. That's here wrong because they have to be released. And my service brake is released. My vehicle is secured. Is a true statement? No, it's not true statement because spring brakes, it should be released, not engaged. Okay? Remember, static leakage test or apply leakage test. Engine is off. Spring brakes are released. The vehicle is secured. And now give me the number. What type of vehicle? Straight or bus or combination. And now the key, if should I push the service brake is released or is pushed. That's the difference between static leakage test or apply leakage test.